In the athletes, it happens all the time, right, Ben? The big contracts, they finish their career, they go bankrupt. I think the numbers are like 70% of them within a few years go bankrupt. They lose it all. 3 features that you need to have to be a successful Amazon seller.
What do you think?
I think you have to be you have to have work ethic. I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and this is something that I tell people from the start, is that Amazon is a passive income business that you don't have to create on, and then you're going to be able to go and drink piña coladas at the beach while checks start rolling in. And Ben, I don't know if you remember, but it was sold like that a lot. Like there were programs that would sell you on, oh, you know, you're going to be able to generate passive income and build your business, and just Amazon's going to be sending you paychecks all the time. That's not the reality of entrepreneurship. So it does take work. You have to learn marketing. I know, Ben, that you have people on your fast track group that have been around for years, like myself, learning every single month new strategies. You got to stay up to date. So you got to be dedicated. You got to be hardworking, and you got to put the energy behind. Those are definitely things that are inescapable. If you don't look for ways to make yourself better as a marketer, and look for opportunities, and look for mentors like Ben, like myself, to learn things from, since we have walked the talk ourselves, then you're going to be probably struggling. So I have a question, Ben. Like, you can probably give me more data on this since you have a lot of Amazon sellers under you. What are you seeing yourself in regards to starting an Amazon brand from scratch? If you apply yourself, if you create the listings, and maybe you create a couple of products and you source them and you launch them and you apply pay-per-click and you optimize your listings and you get things going right, when are you seeing that somebody can start seeing some return on that?
Usually about 90 days, but I'll be honest with you, because, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. At that point, you have an important decision to make. Are you going to start to drain the cash profits out of this new business? That business is still a newborn. It still needs care and feeding, breast milk, all that stuff, right? So if you start, chopping in half the amount of breast milk that you give the newborn, it's going to really stunt the growth. And so what I'm saying is, you need to make a strategic decision. If you don't need the money, like in other words, if you have another business or a job, I would do what we call a strategic reinvestment of the profit, because the worst number in business is the number one, meaning one product that you're kicking ass on. I don't like that. I could have a supplier blow up in my face. I'm out of business. I could have Amazon, in their infinite wisdom, they're a big dumb company, and just you get some moron who bans your product just for some nonsensical reason. I mean, we had a wine aerator top for years and years and years, and just the most nonsensical thing, we actually had somebody blatantly knock us off, and it was a counterfeit product. We wrote into Amazon, they blocked us. So we had to fight with them for like a month and a half to get it back on. So stupid stuff like that. So the number one scares the crap out of me. You know, one product, you don't want to go there, in my opinion, if you're serious about this. So if you can pull it off after 90 days, you take the profit you've now generated, save it up for a couple more months, and now you can launch product number 2. Now you have 2 products that are pumping out some cash flow, and now you're able to save up even quicker to release product number 3. Now, the number I strove to get to in year 1 is 10 products, because I had a simple business plan, and I still teach this because I think this is easy to understand, but also practical. I know within a product mix of 10 different products, the 80-20 rule is going to kick in. And you know I'm obsessed by 80-20. And I know that 2 of those products are going to outsell the other 8 combined. It's just how it works. I don't care how great your company is. Apple, I guarantee you that they have 2 products that outsell the other 12. Their iPhone and their iPad outsell everything else combined. And you can't predict in advance which those are. So I wanted to get approximately 10 products, minimal startup for each of those, a process of strategic stair-step reinvestment, right? And then you mitigate your risk. And the goal is to average $10,000 a month in gross sales per product, in theory. So that means 10 products within a year, that would generate $100,000 a month in gross income. You have a 7-figure Amazon business. And realistically nowadays, because you have FBA fees, you're going to hire Manuel for stuff. You have some social media costs. If you're going to do it right and treat it like a true brand that you can eventually sell, your net is about 25%. And that's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, this is a hands-off business, not hands-off like the hypesters talk about. Manuel, if you can figure out a business where I can sip margaritas and just have people give me money without doing any work, tell me that business. I've never found one like that. So you're always going to have...
I think that's possible only after you have a lot of wealth. Would you agree, Ben? Once you have a lot of wealth and you can put that money to work, then yes. But not until then, because there are businesses that you can put money on and you get a percentage back every month and then sit back and drink your margaritas. But not until you have that wealth built, it happens. Like I know, for example, right now I've invested on properties and I've invested on funds and I do get money back, right? But if I stop creating it just, there's a limit to it. So there isn't such a thing. And I don't like to tell people, look, it doesn't exist, passive income. But it doesn't exist for people that don't really have wealth yet. It really doesn't. If you want to build wealth, like you want to have a business that feeds you and your family and gives you a quality of life, then no, you're gonna have to put the energy in it, and that's inevitable. And if you're looking for something else, then maybe you're not cut out for entrepreneurship, and you might just get a job and just go down that route, which is possible. Some people, they want to just get a job and not build their own path, because it is, like you say, the answer that you gave me to how long does it take to start seeing the results? Well, 3 months, right? But I'm sure people like you and me, we don't touch a new business's money for a long time. I think the first time that we got money out of Natural Slim was years later, after we have been built and eating rice and beans for a long time. And that's the reality of entrepreneurship. It takes a while until you really start taking things out of it. In the meantime, you start pouring it all back into the machine because you're trying to build a machine. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So let me just close that loop, because there is a process that I've done this with every single business where I'm willing to strategically reinvest until I hit a certain number. And I always have a number in my mind. But once I hit that number, I transition from growth stage to cash cow stage. And I literally planted the flag and I said, we've hit the number. Now I'm going to milk this cow for all it's worth. And you become enormously cash profitable. And then you pull back in that strategic reinvestment, but you have to be conscious about it. And I'm just going to say one final thing, and then I'll punt it back to you about saving and investing. So this is like the crazy ant in the basement that nobody talks about. Nobody wants to talk about that. What's the end game of entrepreneurship? And for me, I was always clear from my earliest age. My end game was so I don't ever have to work again. Of course I will. I love this. I love the art of business. But after I got divorced in about 2001, so I was a young entrepreneur and I felt like it was raining money. I had nightclubs. I was cash rich at the time. When you're in your 20s, you don't know what the hell you don't know, right? You're doing stupid stuff with your money. I'm thinking this is going to continue forever. And bam, got divorced. My world went upside down. And now I had to force liquidate assets to pay off that first wife and blah, blah, blah. So you're selling, of course, it's the worst time. 9/11 had just hit. Nobody wants to buy a nightclub in Vegas because at the time people thought no one's ever going to travel. So I had to force liquidate all these assets. And I found myself in debt for the first time. And so I'm like, screw this. I always knew save X% of your money, blah, 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 blah. But I'd never really taken it to heart till I'm like, wow. From that point forward, I vowed I'm going to get debt free within 2 years, which I did because I worked my ass off. But then I'm going to save half of all my profit. And I started that now almost 2 decades. And when you do that and you take chips off the table, I don't care if right now you're not super profitable, take a couple chips off the table, get them out of the core business. You don't know what the hell can happen. I mean, tomorrow Amazon can say we're banning all third-party sellers. Who knows? I don't think it'll happen. But
they have the power to do that. They have that power
to do that. Or who knows? You might have a health issue or I don't know what. But there's no better feeling than you don't have to work. You're rich. You don't have to work. The dividends or the rental income it's cash gushing on its own on the side. And now you do this because you want to. And when you're in our position like me and you, There's no more liberating feeling than firing a pain in the ass client because you can afford to, right? Than doing business on your terms, turning down deals because you just don't want to, you don't like that certain individual, blah, blah, whatever the case may be. So I just want to put that out there because be aware when you're in super growth mode, entrepreneurs especially, I'm one, and Walls on, we tend to be super hyper focused on our business, but what's your long game? Got to take chips off the table. Just like when like when you're up in Vegas where I used to live, the smart ones take a certain percentage of the chips, throw it in their pocket so they know that they're not going to go bust.
I absolutely love that. And it's a fact. And it's stages. You got to look at it in stages. Like the example that I talked to you about this lady that she was dependent on the malls and having business there. Well, she was smart. She took chips off the table consistently. And she was prepared for a rainy day. Did she see a worldwide pandemic happening? No, but it happened. And because of that, malls were closed down for months and her business is gone. But she took chips off the table. And because of that, she's able to be like, okay, great. So this is sad. It's depressing. It's a big shift. But I can start over because I did this exact thing that Benny's talking about. And now she can come to us and we can build her social media marketing and get her on internet and penetrate that world. If she hadn't done that, and if she just kept on spending the money and spending the money and spending the money whenever it comes in, she wouldn't be able to do that. You're done. And how many stories do we see of those that are happening every day? People that, in the athletes, it happens all the time, right, Ben? The big contracts, they finish their career, they go bankrupt. I think the numbers are like 70% of them within a few years go bankrupt. They lose it all. It's pretty intense. So in entrepreneurs, I am also a victim. I did that, not a victim, because that's not really a victim. That's being irresponsible and dumb. But I myself have done that, and I've had to learn the lesson. I am lucky enough that I have a wife who is responsible with the finances, Ben, and she just takes control and tells me what to do and how to be smart about it. But it's stages. At the beginning, as you're building a business, and you're creating your own economy and you're doing your marketing, then yes, money goes back into the business, not into buying cars or fancy vacations or any of that. But once you get to a point in which you're profiting, I love that point that Ben just mentioned, which is 50% of that profits go into your pockets and into building a safety net, like they like to call, that you're going to use it in case something happens in a rainy day. Because again, Amazon does control. That's the thing. That's why we don't like to call Amazon an actual end-all business, because Amazon is a launching pad, and it's an incredible launching pad. 1995, you were not able to build a business at the speed that we're able to build it today. It was not possible. You can ask all the ancestors in the world, my dad, my grandpa, these guys that have been doing business for ages. It simply was not human. In order for you to be able to build $1 million business, you would have to put your head down and work for 10 years. And just be obsessed over your business. And maybe down the line, you can do $1 million. Right now, I mean, you know my story a little bit, Ben. With your training, I had the bed sheets business that it was as simple as that. I told this story before many times, but I wanted to build an income line. I was already doing Natural Slim on Amazon, and I was selling a grand total of 5 units a day with your help. And it was exciting. And I used to refresh the app. You know how it is, like every single 5 minutes, and then 2 hours later, I got a new sale. That's what I was doing. But at that same time, I had a partner. He was not my partner yet. He was working with me on our 9-to-5 job. And in his weekend hours, he was selling bed sheets on the road. And you know my bed sheets business, because that was one of the things that I taught with you and your audience along the way. That business, we invested $0 in it, $0. All right. So people that are saying like, oh, but I don't have money to invest in inventory. When you really want to get it done, you get creative and you get it done. That's what I did. I just learned, and I had this value, knowledge, which, by the way, was imparted by the one and only Mr. Ben Cummings. And I had that knowledge. I had this guy who was selling bed sheets in consignment. He used to get the bed sheets, and they were called 𝗟𝗢𝗥𝗘s, and he would sell them on the streets. He would put a tent, and he would sell them for $20, and he would make $9 for every bed sheet. Great business. But it was limited to the scalability, which Amazon is not. It's an unlimited scalability business model. He had to go physically, put a tent, put a lot of bed sheets, and put big banners and bring people in. So I said, Ernesto, he's still with me today. But Ernesto, I said, we're going to grab that bed sheets. And I was already learning from you private label business, right? That was all about private labels. How do we go ahead and build our own private labels? And Ernesto was like, sure, we're ready. Let's go ahead and do 𝗟𝗢𝗥𝗘. And I'm like, no. We're not doing 𝗟𝗢𝗥𝗘. We're going to do our own brand. So I opened out the bed sheet. True story, Ben. I opened up the bed sheet and I said, I'm hoping and I'm praying that I don't find a branding on this bed sheet. It has a little sticker on the top. I pull it out. It's Clara Clark. Okay, good. So I open up the bed sheet and I look everywhere and I can't find any branding on it, Ben. And I said, Ernesto, we hit the jackpot. Let's go. We created a label. We created a brand. It was called Cozy House Collection, which we sold a couple of years ago. I couldn't select COZY, but I found that in the UK, COSY was correct. So I said, we got it, Cozy House Collection. 9 months later, we were doing $300,000 in sales of this consignment bed sheets. And even our supplier was like, what the heck are you guys doing? I can't give you consignment anymore. Okay, we'll start buying them. And 18 months into it, we were doing $600,000 in sales. And that's at one point, I was sharing that with you, Ben, and that's where you were like, whoa, what a second, Manuel, would you like to come and talk about what you've done? But it's a true story of creativity, like how it starts from nothing. Ernesto has $0. I had $0. We just had passion, dedication, energy. We wanted to get it done, and that's how we started. Without that business model there, without Amazon being a part of it, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. That's what allowed me to sell that business, get cash, build an agency, hire staff, and do what I'm doing today. So it is something that, we take it for granted, but in the 1990s, in the 1980s, this was not humanly possible. And it's one of those things about being grateful and I guess lucky to be in this particular era in which we can do that ourselves for any business.